Welcome to the AT assessment process. This short presentation is trying to take years of experience and massive amounts of research and articles and simplifying it for you to learn in a few short weeks. So listen carefully. In week 1, we had the chance to look at the most current AT articles on assessment. Be sure to glance over the variety of articles. Regardless of the model you select, it's best practice to have the student or individual being assessed as your main focus. It is imperative that you match the technology to the student or individual, not the other way around. Take a closer look at the resources and discussion board to try to narrow down your model selection. What determines the model or framework? Consider some of these factors. Assistive technology assessment can vary from district to district and agency to agency and state to state. The field of AT is enriched by the development of several models to guide the assessment process. Regardless of the model you select, it must contain these 7 essential elements. Let's take a look at them. First, as you know, AT is shifting in the field as far as assessment. No longer does the AT expert come in and then tell the team what tools to use. Instead, AT specialists use a team approach. Focus on the student's needs and abilities and examine the specific tasks to be completed. Consider relevant environmental concerns, issues, or cues. Trial use of assistive technology tools. Provide necessary supports to ensure success, and view assessment as an ongoing process. Consider it the beginning, not the end. Let's look at step 1, define the problem. What is it that the student or individual needs to do? Take a minute to know your student or client. Ask others who know the individual very well what some of the barriers or challenges might exist. Start by understanding the person behind the technology. Look at the strengths, the likes and dislikes, the motivation, prior experiences, and then dive into some very specific questions. If you cannot find the answer to one question, consider it as needing to be revamped or ask it a different way. Assessment in the home, work, or community is also important. Evaluation must focus on specific goals. A functional analysis of the completion of a consideration checklist or questionnaire takes place to determine the individual's need for assistive technology. Here are just a few examples. For goodness sakes, make sure you include the individual that you're looking and working with closely. Ask their opinion, in other words. In the schools, the principal reason for providing assistive technology is to enable the student to complete instructional and non-academic goals set forth within their IEP. So if a student has a learning disability, say for example in math, dyscalculia, the AT evaluation could not focus on reading unless there was a reading goal that the student was not meeting. Here's the reality check. This is what happens in most cases. Parents and teachers alike often ask for AT evaluations for common things like keyboarding, handwriting, organizational skills. Unless there's an IEP goal that is not being met, that these types of skills are interfering with the success in completing the goal, then the AT evaluation should not occur. Bottom line is, there must be a goal on the IEP that the AT evaluation addresses. The problem being the student is not reaching a specific goal, not just needing technology. Reality check 2. Individuals with disabilities, parents, teachers see and hear about different devices and often request an AT evaluation to get such devices. Example 1, the iPad, that is the miracle tool for students with autism. Example 2, we've all seen the Dragon Naturally Speaking commercials at Christmas time. Well, you should see the AT evaluations right afterwards that every parent would like to have their child to use voice recognition or speech-to-text software because they can use a smartphone or just speak into something and have it typed. Bottom line is pick the feature, not the product. Step 2, gather relevant information and data. Where to look, who to ask. Ask the individual and the people in the individual's environment about strengths and the needs and tasks and barriers to performance in learning environments and the current level of performance in the customary environments. Conduct interviews with teachers, service-related providers, family, employers, or anyone working one-on-one with the individual. What tools and strategies have been tried in the past? What worked and didn't work and why? Read reports and the documents such as the IEP and recent testing evaluations, case files, medical reports. A lot of schools have progress monitoring, red flags that share students failing, and that can give us insight as well. Conduct an observation. In most cases, the observation is the individual performing the challenging task in the customary environment. That provides valuable information on what the challenge is and what natural supports and barriers exist in the environment. Reality check. A student with an IEP could have related service providers that see the student, but don't be surprised if you ask an IEP team member and you don't get any feedback or response. If this happens, you have to just ask the questions differently. For example, what kind of challenges do you see Billy having? No response. Ask again. Does Billy have any chance to use the computer in your classroom or sessions? Oh, what programs does he use? Show evidence that you have exhausted avenues in obtaining and gathering information. Step 3, generate possible solutions. Based on the information you collected and you have identified tools and strategies and supporting services which hold promise to improving the performance and increasing participation or increasing independence depending on your goal, this takes hours of research. Research what already exists in the customary environment. Explore product catalogs on the internet. Talk to the vendors about devices and features. Use professional resources, journals, and closing the gap solutions that I mentioned in week 1. Consider AT across the continuum for no-tech to high-tech solutions. Have that continuum available. Ensure there is no conflict with family values and culture. Step 4, conduct AT trials. An assistive technology assessment must always be student-centered, identifying the technology to meet the student's individual needs. Never should the available technology drive the assessment. According to the goals for technology assessment derived from the task the student needs to perform in the school, there is a delicate balance here. If a student needs voice recognition and the school is a Google Chromebook school, it only makes sense to exploit voice recognition features available to all students. If the student needs a more powerful or perhaps a more simplified tool, then it should be noted. Conduct AT trials. Develop and implement an AT trial plan, including timelines and criteria for determining success and collecting measurable data on the impact to the student's performance in the student's customary environments. This is often conducted within a defined time period in collaboration with others in the customary environment. The goal is to validate the effectiveness of the chosen technologies so as to provide greater confidence about the decisions. Again, reality check. You may not be responsible for conducting a trial to know what devices work best. If this is the case, provide resources and data collection templates that could be used to provide support and structure for those who are running the trial. Step 5, AT implementation. Deciding on the appropriate technology is just the beginning of the process. For years, research has told us that the lack of technical support and training have been identified as major barriers to technology implementation. Therefore, it's crucial that training and technical support are carefully considered. The IEP team cannot integrate and support the use of AT if they are unfamiliar with how it works and its benefits to the student, what it does, how it works, and how to troubleshoot basic problems. Integrate successful appropriate AT tools and strategies. First, analyze results and determine the appropriate tools and strategies based on the trial, or whether additional trials are needed, and develop a plan to implement the recommended technology. Remember, no data is data. If the student is not using the technology, that is data, and make sure it's documented. Document required tools and strategies in individual's case file or IEP, and if you're not directly involved in the implementation, be available to answer any questions or provide assistance or training. Step 6, and this is the part that your final project is going to hit heavily as well, is preparing the AT report. It must contain the following features. It must have clear headings. That's your name, and in many cases, for this particular class, we'll have an agency logo that is make-believe or not truly an official logo at all. Everyone for this class must have their own cover page with this statement. The statement reads, "Please be advised that this is a learning activity and the information produced in this final report should not be used as an official assistive technology assessment. It should not be used in litigation or in a due process situation." Client-student demographic content information is needed. In this case, for this class, it is going to be a make-believe name. Do not use the student or client's real name or location. Background information, disability, environments where services are provided, everything that happens prior to when you were asked to complete an AT evaluation, previous reports, reason for the AT evaluation, etc. Existing supports in customary environment, anything that helps build the case for the report, recommendations, resources like a laptop cart, and etc. Look at accommodations already in place. If there are any, make sure they're listed on your AT report and where they're coming from, if it's an IEP from 1992 or whatever the case may be. Observation and assessment, a narrative that includes all support provided from point of initial observation to the date of the finalized report. That's listing your contact hours, not hours, but the contact that you have made with the student and the IEP team so that they know your involvement. Recommended tools and strategies. List accommodation wordings for all recommendations. Resources that might be helpful for information and training. Miscellaneous information that includes any recommendations not specific for the reason of AT evaluation. This, you want to be very careful. You don't want to talk about tools if the team hasn't asked about specific tools. So use miscellaneous very carefully there. And attachments. Make sure you include tutorials or pictures or examples to help the team look through their options. Closing statement or procedure is also needed. For this PowerPoint, I just wanted to share with you some of the resources that were used. And at any time, if you need other resources, please let me know. That's the end of our very simplified AT process. In the next few weeks, you will be conducting an AT assessment, and check the course, and it'll have all the details of what you need to start with this week. Good luck. I know you're going to enjoy it.